Hello, action recap here.
A newscast reveals that Lake Victoria has now become a virtual ghost town due to the tragedy. A year ago, the world was shocked when a swarm of piranhas appeared in Lake Victoria and massacred dozens of young people enjoying their spring break. Today I'm going to explain a comedy sci-fi horror film called Piranha 3DD. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Even after a massive eradication program, many residents abandoned their property, causing the local economy to collapse. On the anniversary of the incident, people who remember the event wonder if the deadly attacks could happen. Wade into Cross Lake to retrieve a cow's corpse. A fish egg comes out of the cow's mouth when Clayton stabs it with a hook. Clayton feels something moving inside the corpse, so he asks Mo to shine the light in the cow's belly. The dead cow farts and discharges another egg when Clayton touches it. Clayton puts a lighter close to the corpse and ignites the gas when the cow farts again. The cow suddenly explodes, releasing more eggs into the water. Some of the eggs hatch into small piranhas that immediately feed on the two farmers. After a moment, Clayton emerges from the water and bites off a piranha's head before dropping dead. At a nearby water park, Chet films an advertisement in preparation for the grand reopening of the establishment. When he sees his stepdaughter Maddie arriving, he interrupts the filming to greet her. Maddie scolds him for firing their old lifeguards and replacing them with exotic dancers, so he explains that the new hires are water certified. Chet notes that he's only trying to live up to the promise of Maddie's deceased mother to keep the water park running. He then shows Maddie the water park's new adult section, where women swim and dance on the pole. On the edge of the pool, there's a flat-screen TV, showing a view of people climbing out of the pool. Maddie tries to get rid of the camera on the ladder and reminds Chet that she owns half of the property. However, Chet points out that she doesn't have the authority to do anything because he owns most of the shares. During a party for the water park employees that night, Maddie spent some time with her friend Ashley and Shelby, after being away from them while she's in university studying marine biology. Barry remarks that Maddie must be wishing she's still in school because of what Chet has done with the water park. Maddie notes that she misses the old times when she worked there and hung out with him. Suddenly, Kyle, a policeman, arrives and jokes that he should cite Maddie for underage drinking and drugs at the water park. Kyle hints that he wants to rekindle their old relationship, but Maddie notes that she's only back for the summer and she doesn't like long-distance relationships. At a lake nearby, Shelby and her boyfriend Josh decide to go skinny dipping. While they splash water at each other, Shelby feels something brushing up against her. Shelby thinks it's Josh, but he contends that he's not doing anything. She starts feeling uncomfortable, so she decides to get out of the water. Not far, Ashley and her boyfriend Travis pray for forgiveness because they are about to fornicate in the van. After the prayer, Ashley cuffs Travis to a pole and then puts the key in her brassiere. Before they could even begin, the van starts moving towards the lake after Travis accidentally kicks the handbrake. As the van begins to sink, Travis asks Ashley for the key to the cuffs, but it's no longer in her brassiere. Travis tells her to keep looking, but she decides to get out of the van. Soon, piranhas start feasting on Travis while Ashley screams for help from the top of the van. Then, when she looks through the window, Travis punches through the glass with a mangled arm. She continues screaming for help as the vehicle sinks further into the water. The next day, Maddie asks Shelby about Ashley and Travis because they didn't report for work. Shelby notes that she hasn't seen them either. Shelby suddenly feels nauseous and throws up. Big Dave quips that it's morning sickness and congratulates Josh. The police find the van in the lake later that day, but there's no one inside. Kyle tells Shelby that Ashley and Travis are probably just hiding somewhere, but Shelby is still worried because Ashley isn't on answering her phone. Later, Maddie approaches Shelby at the jetty by the lake to console her about Ashley's disappearance. Suddenly, piranhas start dumping out of the water to attack them, so they head toward the land. However, Shelby falls into the water as the aggressive piranhas break the wooden planks. Maddie helps pick her up before the piranhas can bite her, but the jetty splits apart and Shelby is forced to jump on the floating piece. Maddie convinces Shelby to jump back toward her before the wooden platform floats away. They both fall into the water, but they manage to swim ashore. A large piranha suddenly jumps out of the water to attack Maddie, but she grabs it before it reaches her. The two girls beat the fish with a rock until it stops moving. Soon, Maddie, Kyle, and Barry head to the house of a marine biologist, Carl Goodman, to find out how the piranhas made it to Cross Lake. Goodman notes that Cross Lake isn't connected to Lake Victoria, but piranhas could be migrating through underground lakes and rivers. He then proceeds to show the trio just how strong and aggressive the piranhas are by putting a sheet of galvanized steel in an aquarium with piranha. When he throws the frog on the other side of the sheet, the piranha rams through the steel until it breaks open, but Barry grabs the frog before the fish can get to it. Goodman notes that the piranhas were able to come back and spawn due to the sulfur dioxide generated by geothermal activity. He surmises that the piranhas entered the drainage system because they followed the sulfur dioxide release during the treatment of chlorinated water. Goodman says he tried to warn people that the piranhas could get inside the drainage system, but he lost his credibility when he released his book that foretold the plague of the walking fish. Barry discloses that he's read the book and he loves it. Goodman then gives each of them a copy of his book. When Maddie asks why Barry read the book on marine biology, he reveals that he wanted to learn about things that captured Maddie's interest. Maddie points out that the water park is opening the next day, so they must check the drainage system and the outflow pipe to the lake. At the bottom of the lake, a piranha takes a bite of Ashley's mangled corpse. Another piranha passes by and regurgitates the key to the handcuffs she put on Travis. Later that night, Shelby asks Josh to make love to her because she's still depressed about Ashley's disappearance. Meanwhile, Maddie asks Barry to dive with her to check the outflow pipes near the lake. However, Barry confesses that he can't swim, so she goes in the water alone. As Maddie inspects the grates on the pipes, a piranha emerges and attacks her. The piranha bites her foot as she swims back to the surface. More piranhas swim toward her, but she makes it to the land with Kyle's help. Shelby and Josh are soon in bed, but Shelby suddenly convulses when something moves in her belly. When Josh stops, he panics upon seeing a piranha biting his member. He staggers toward the kitchen and hesitantly cuts off the organ with a knife. Shelby soon wakes up and sees the piranha writhing on the kitchen floor. The severed organ shoots out of its mouth when she steps on it. As she looks through the window to find Josh, the enraged boyfriend turns up behind her, holding a knife and yelling at her. Later, Kyle meets up with Chet to get hush money for overlooking the illegal well that draws water from the underground river. Kyle discloses that Maddie checked the pipes at the lake and found that the grates are intact. He hints that the well could be another way for the piranhas to get into the water park, but Chet tells him not to worry about it. Barry approaches Maddie in her room and asks if she's getting back together with Kyle. Maddie tells him that she won't, but he hears some hesitation in her voice. Suddenly, Shelby arrives and tells her about the unfortunate incident with Josh. So they take the lovers to the hospital. When Maddie gets back home, she takes a dip in the bathtub. Small piranhas start dropping out of the faucet while her eyes are closed. A piranha soon lunges towards her, but she wakes up from the bad dream. The next day, a good number of people line up to get into the water park. One of those guests is Deputy Fallon, who is still dealing with the trauma of losing his legs in the piranha attack last year. He is still afraid to go in the water, but his companion Andrew points out that swimming in a kiddie pool will be the first step to overcoming their fear. Fallon tells Andrew to toss him into the pool, but he suddenly changes his mind. Fallon throws him into the water instead, when Andrew insists on pushing him into the pool. Later, Chet introduces David Hasselhoff as a celebrity lifeguard for the day. It doesn't take long for the ladies to crowd around Hasselhoff to take pictures with him. Meanwhile, Maddie discovers the illegal well and confronts Chet about it. She warns him that piranhas might go through the intake pipes, but Chet brushes off her concerns. A piranha soon swims through the pipes and breaks through one of the grates in one of the pools. A young boy named David tells his mother that a piranha bit him, but a woman asserts that he just scraped himself. David approaches Hasselhoff and asks him for a band-aid, but he gives him an autographed picture instead. When he realizes that David doesn't recognize him, he starts naming his movies and TV shows, but the boy doesn't know any of them. Another woman gets bit and tells Maddie that she saw a fish, so Maddie asks Chet to shut down the water park. However, Chet refuses since Maddie didn't see the fish herself. Maddie tries to get the people to leave the pool, but Kyle stops her and drags her away. Soon, the water in the pool is stained with blood when more piranhas arrive and attack. Andrew takes Fallon away from the pool, but Fallon stops him and instructs him to get his prosthetic leg. Not long, Fallon heads to the pool and shoots the piranhas with a gun attached to his titanium limbs. He only stops shooting to help the girl get out of the water. Once the girl is safe, he continues blowing the piranhas away. Hasselhoff hears David screaming for help, but he ignores him. A woman asks him to do something about the piranhas, but he points out that he's not a real lifeguard and the people will be safe once they get out of the water. When he hears David's voice again, Hasselhoff remarks to himself that the boy is a little moron for going back into the water. Hasselhoff eventually runs to help David as he screams. Before reaching the boy, he stops to catch his breath and remarks that he's getting old. After taking the boy out of the water, Hasselhoff is elated that he actually rescued someone. Maddie soon returns to the pool area and smacks Chet in the face for not listening to her. She realizes that they need to drain the pools, so she instructs Barry to turn on the water pumps to suck the water. Before heading to the pump station, Barry confesses that he's been in love with Maddie since the 7th grade. Maddie notes that she didn't realize it because she thought he was gay. On the way to the pumps, Big Dave asks Barry to pull out a piranha that bit his butt. Big Dave follows Barry to the pump station after he takes out the fish from his rear. As Chet attempts to flee, he comes across a young girl mourning the death of her mother. He feels terrible for the girl, so he apologizes her and gives her some money, but he accidentally hits her with a buggy. As Chet drives out of the water park, his head gets decapitated on a wire of a low-hanging banner. A woman catches his head and throws it into the pool, where it gets eaten by the piranhas. While waiting for the pumps to drain the water, Maddie swims into the pool to rescue the children. Soon, the piranhas get sucked into the drainage system after Barry turns on the water pumps. The force of the suction pulls Maddie to the bottom, so she uses all of her strength to swim back to the surface. She sees Kyle and asks for help, but Kyle refuses to pull her up and confesses that Chet promised him 35% of the profits. When Kyle runs into Barry, he claims that Maddie is gone and he couldn't save her. Barry jumps into the pool, but he immediately gets out of the water when he fails to swim to the bottom. He sees a piranha swimming towards Maddie, so he throws the trident that he used to clean the water park and hits the fish right in the head. Afterward, Barry jumps into the pool carrying a large rock so he can reach the bottom and save Maddie. After taking Maddie out of the water, he performs mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to revive her. Kyle goes back to save people, but he doesn't realize that everyone in the pool is already dead. Big Dave pours chlorine into the pipes and ignites it with a lit joint to retaliate against the piranhas. The force of the explosion blows up the remaining piranhas in the water. It also sends the trident into the air, plummeting straight into Kyle's eye. Later, Goodman calls Maddie to warn her that the piranhas have evolved to start walking on land. Maddie responds by saying she already knows because she's watching a piranha walk towards her. David approaches the walking piranha to take a video. His mother tells him to get away from it, but he points out the fish is slow on land. His mother screams hysterically when the piranha suddenly jumps towards David and bites off his head. Hasselhoff hears the mother scream and remarks that the boy is a little moron.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this.